My guest for the morning, I have Fritz Bafo, Member of Parliament for Ablekuma South, and thanks for joining me, sir. Osei Bonsuama, Obi Amwa, is a Member of Parliament for Equiapim South as well, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, he's in black. He is in the morning cloth, if you were to be coming from up north as well. Planned?
No.
I thought it's a new dressing code, maybe for the week for the MPs.
3 days of mourning.
3 days of mourning.
Yes.
3 days of mourning. Okay, we do understand that. But talking about mourning and the issues of rainstorm, we're just getting this from the Ghana Meteorological Agency that a rainstorm in the country is expected, moving west to continue giving rains or thunderstorms over the affected areas, especially in Accra, the southern zones of the country, the middle belt, and up north. And in the northern belt between now to 10 a.m., middle belt now to 10 a.m. as well, but in the coastal belt from now to about 10 a.m. And the public should take precautions, we're told, for especially the flooded areas or the affected areas of Wednesday's flood. And the driver should also be cautious on the road when driving, be always speeding at the lowest of their speedometer, and also to avoid accidents within the process. And so I guess we're getting a lot more of the weather warnings. But with the forecast of more rains in the coming days, the Trades Union Congress, they've appealed to the president to ensure there's not a repeat of Wednesday's floods. We don't know how that can happen if we don't have the various steps that have been taken. And so, well, we're told that we need to have a committee put in place, etc. And, well, they wrote a letter to the president, and we know we've been privy to what is coming from the TU. So I have to start with you, Osei Bonsuama, all that has happened and up to now.
Well, thank you and good morning to viewers.
Good morning.
We are mourning, and we only pray that this will never happen to us again, except that we say it every year, then something happens. But this year is the most tragic that we can ever think of. Probably we've taken a lot of things for granted, and we don't seem to appreciate our circumstances. Like, by and large, developing country, having to depend on donor support and IMF and all those things. And then deciding that because we are poor because we have made ourselves poor, we have to live like poor people. Why I'm saying this is that we know the consequences of what we do. And probably we think that God is always on our side and that He will save us from our recklessness, our irresponsibility, our lackadaisical attitude, everything that we do wrongly. We assume that because God is there, He will always protect us. But, I mean, Accra is prone to a lot of things. And the situation is worsened by the fact that Accra has been the last stop of almost everybody. Those who want to, it's either the destination or a transit point. There are those who feel that they can only make ends meet if they come to Accra from the rest of the country. There are even those who hope to come here, make some money, and then leave Ghana. So it's either destination or transit point. And as governments, we've come to appreciate that the population in Accra is growing and has grown to the extent that the facilities and infrastructure here cannot sustain those who have come to live here. But initial thinking is ad hoc measures. Then later on, see whether we can use one big investment to address the whole problem. But, I mean, I heard a Tuesday talking about interministerial committee. If you go back, in 2009, there was an interministerial committee. In 2000, I rising out of floods. I remember very well in 2001, June around this time, the president, Kufuor, was out of the country, vice president was acting. I remember he was touring the Volta region. I was with him in the Volta region, and then there were floods in Accra, so a helicopter had to pick us for us to come and even look at what was happening in Accra from the air. And if we seem to know the problem, but instead of addressing the problem, we seem to rather compound it by allowing more people to settle, even at unauthorized places, allowing everything that we do wrongly here to go on. This is what happens. And it's as if we have no government, or we have had no government. And sometimes I feel sad, but sometimes I'm tempted to compare our situation to certain countries. It may not be fair to mention those countries, but look at the situation in Haiti. Like we're getting there. Now if you mention rain, we all panic. We panic because we don't know what will happen next. Our children in school, everybody now in town trying to work. We panic because what will be the end by evening? And we say no blame game, but somebody does the work and somebody has to take the blame. If a coach is not doing well and his team is beating, he has to leave. As simple as that. Just even in a game of football. But sometimes you wonder, I get the impression, does it mean we should let technical people now head the ministries? Because they will tell you that we know all the solutions, but we don't have the political power. Or does it mean that those with political power just look at the cosmetic situation and then move on? Take Minister of Local Government. At least 4 ministers have been in place since the so-called Conti project was initiated. I remember in 2012 there were 2 major press conferences. Honorable Ofosu did one, Honorable Okovan-Apoyo did another one, to tell the whole world that the solution is in sight. Yeah,
we're told that the Conti project would have been the solution to,
the mother of all solutions.
Not fully, but would have really kept the
mother of all solutions, because everything had been identified, and we were told that once we addressed
had been announced in various State of the Nation addresses, budgets.
In 2013, the president was dragged to go and break the ground for the project. It was so exciting that even the American embassy issued a press statement that the Conti was taken off and this is the best thing for the country. Now, how many years down the line? We're supposed to access funding from Exim in the US, and then 125 million of it from Stan Charts in Ghana. As we speak, we don't know the fate of even this project.
Or you are MPs, you should be asking the questions.
No, as for the questions we've asked them.
You do the approvals as well.
As for the questions we've asked them, that's what I'm saying, that we've had 4 ministers from local government alone. 3 of them in this short period. Honorable Oponfosu, Julius Debra, now we have Collins Dauda. Before then, before then, Ileche. Now, we seem to be where we are because we either think that it's not a priority, or we say it to let people think that we are doing something and nothing happens. It's tragic. It's tragic. Innocent people just hoping to find shelter because it's raining, and then all this across the country. And sometimes I think that we say we should not be cynical or whatever, but sometimes probably we should start putting notices that you are in danger zone, because Accra is endangered. Cholera will take 200 people. Market fires will take their toll. Now floods will take their toll. Now it's combining floods and fire. It's not safe to even stay in Accra anymore, because it's just like having one big building. The building is supposed to contain 10 people. Now all of a sudden the building contains about 50 people. And these 50 people, they all have to use the sanitary facilities. They have to use all the facilities in the building. And the building will not survive. That's why it's happening to us.
Mr. Bafo, as far as we're concerned, we've had floods, at least for every decade we have a flood. Every decade we have a flood. Well, the last decade and a half, we've been having a lot more than usual. In many countries, at least in countries that are more proactive, such disasters are the turning points for reforms.
Well, I share the sentiments of my colleague here and everything that he said. I can't counter anything that he said. But my take also on it is that sometimes we politicize everything, and increasingly over the years we've politicized almost every single issue, and therefore we've narrowed it down to the inconsequentials. We have to look at the bigger picture, and he's broached on it. You know, we're talking about a city that is low-lying, below sea level, with a very high threshold of underground water. That was the reason why the British actually, I always go back to history, why the British actually chose Accra, because of the abundance of water. Cape Coast was too small for them and was surrounded by hills, and therefore developments and everything became difficult. And they wanted to move to Winneba. Winneba had no water. I mean, and so they moved more to Accra. So the essence of living in Accra was to drain it. The neem trees that you see all over were actually imported from India because they're very good for draining water. You will see that in the ridge areas, the old houses were on stilts. They applied the appropriate technology to the circumstances. And Accra actually was planned because in the early 1900s there was a plague. And so they went, that's why Polygon was, that is where I live. It doesn't flood in Polygon because we're very well planned, very well drained. So Accra has a master plan. And I'm fortunate to say that my father was a city engineer in the late 1940s and the early 1950s. And so I had first-hand knowledge as to what the plans for Accra. Accra is an earthquake zone. It's low-lying. It's prone to flooding. It's got so many underground streams, so many streams coming in from the Akrapim Mountains. One thing I realized, and that because we come partly from Elmina, I have to go to Elmina. Every time we pass by McCarthy Hill, that whole area, the basin, the Densu Basin, well, nobody was supposed to build there. Now go to the Densu Basin, go to McCarthy Hill, what is called, I don't know what they call it now, but that whole area, the broadcasting area.
The place you see down there from Waja and all that.
So why, that is,
even the...
Yes, and the things that you
the western side of McCarthy, you go the valley.
You didn't even need to be told that there's going to be a spill, because I mean nobody was supposed to live there. But the pressure on the land, which is what he said, Accra right now, the Accra in 1972 had roughly about 350 to 400,000 people.
And we were 4 million.
Yes.
Just in the city alone.
And what is worse is that so the 4 million is the fact that about 2 million are transient every day.
They don't live in the city.
Yeah, they pass through.
So they
pass through, or they come in and they go back.
So the argument is they put a lot more pressure.
A lot more pressure. You understand? So we have to look at it and say, what exactly is the master plan for Accra? You were talking about that. I'm old enough to remember 1958. There was a flood that actually even brought crocodiles out in the Odo, this is Asylum Down area, and they started the draining. They started the drainage, the Odo drains and everything. We didn't continue. All right. Now, we're talking about public safety. What annoys me about the statement from TUC is that the TUC is an organization that has a membership all over the country. The workers who were at the petrol station must belong to a union.
And their mother union is TUC.
TUC. You see, what I'm saying is that if you look at trade unionism in the other parts, the places that you call proactive, It is not only about agitating for wages, but it is capacity building and giving the people civic lessons.
So they become part and parcel of the development.
Yes, and the solutions to the problems.
But don't you agree that it's all about the direction and the steering of leadership?
Yes, I mean, the thing is that we have a problem. We have a leadership, we have some form of leadership crisis in this country. Basically because I'm very concerned that at the level that things should be working very, very well is the local government system. And if we look at the quality of people who are managing our local government system, I think that the majority are not capable. We're not looking at even the proper revenue sources. Everybody's relying on the District Assembly Common Fund. We're not looking at other revenue generating initiatives. We're not talking about long-term planning at a certain time. And I won't mention the period. Before I went to politics, I went and did a film on the development prospects of a particular region. And I remember going to meet with the DCE, who didn't even know the potential of his area. He had even forgotten that there was an oil producing platform in his area.
So you're saying because he didn't know, he can't harness?
The thing is that you have to be interested in what you're doing. In doing so, you become proactive because you look at solutions. You understand? This event was very, very tragic. And what it also showed was that you cannot be oblivious of the dangers around you. You said flood. Flood, if there's a fatality from flood or casualty from floods, it has got to do with drowning, not so. You have a fuel station. The valves may not have been open. The petrol comes out. There's a
It just didn't happen in vacuum. It's because there's been a failed leadership somewhere in an
No, you see, I don't want to go to leadership. We also have a basic responsibility as citizens of this country.
Well, true.
You understand?
But if the leadership is making sure that they do the adequate supervision,
no, it's not
it's
only supervision. It's also the fact that we also have a culture of impunity in this country.
You think the Chinese are not stubborn?
The Chinese, of course, there's no.
When they come here, they exhibit signs of stubbornness and recalcitrance.
Yes,
but they don't do it in their country.
Yes, I was in.
For corruption, you'll be killed.
You'll be shot. Yes,
the system allows it here.
Yes, that's what I'm saying about impunity, and I'm saying that there is no community or society in this world that doesn't have stubborn people. They use the laws to control and make people responsible to the societies they belong to, and that is the problem. Listen. My constituency was affected. Choco, everybody talks about Choco. The problem with Choco is that somewhere along the line, we went against the grain. People were not allowed to build on the beaches until the late 70s. Yes, initially. You are not supposed to build on the beach. There's an ordinance that says something like 80 yards or 50 meters or something. I can't give you the specifics.
I don't want coach there.
You can't, because that is beach.
Now we have a whole community, living
on the, you build your house on the
side. The local government is watching.
Yes, watching.
But we have an oversight ministry. At the end of the day, would you say that beyond the subject of whether we're politicking or not, we feel that we need to hold somebody responsible or people responsible? But generally as a society, we need to come to terms with the fact that we haven't structured our society well. We haven't done the basic trainings well, and so those we're having in leadership positions, not necessarily political, but at various offices, and those who are middle level, etc., don't have the right leadership qualities, and so we're not getting the right outputs.
Well,
how do we make sure we change that?
Well, but I believe that everything is politics. It's politics which has brought us where we are. We cannot run away from it.
What do if you say
you go to the ministries, where the technical people are not even bold to tell their ministers that this is wrong, this is right. He wants to flow because he wants to keep his position. It's politics. I mean, now chief directors, most of them are put there probably because they think the authorities think they are politically inclined. It's wrong. I mean, my father was principal secretary. He served various governments. I knew his preference, but he never showed, even at home.
Any bias?
Yes. But now, there are people who have stayed in ministries for 20 years. They've learned how to survive. The way to survive is not to rock the boat. You see that the thing being done is wrong, but the political head. Somebody was telling me a funny story. I couldn't believe it. That at meetings, even the bold ones are warned or winged at. The smart ones will keep quiet, wait for the minister to speak and say, I agree with what the minister is saying. So I see this point is purely political. I wish we could have somebody who will say that I'm coming for only 4 years. I don't want re-election. If my party wants to kick me out, they can go ahead. But I'm going to do the right thing and leave.
Who can you get? Your party will not do that.
Well,
the NDC will not do that too.
That's what I wish.
And you are the two biggest parties.
No, I wish one day MPP will say that, come and take over, and I will tell them for 4 years.
It can't happen.
But no, we need it.
But let's operate within the current sphere.
No, yes, I'm saying that it's a political will. It's a political will. Look, Sodom and Gomorrah, old Fadama.
Yeah, what is it there?
What is it there for?
I remember, and talking about what he said in 1958, Nkrumah, the Prime Minister, said they should be moved. Right?
They were moved to New Fadama.
Yes. So they were moved.
They were moved.
Then over time, there was another flood in the 60s. Another flood in the 60s.
That's why it's old Fadama.
No, there have been floods every 2 years. In fact, floods every year.
No, I'm talking about major
but
results
the population there of 5.
And it impacts on the main drainage area going out of Accra.
The population even of the whole of Ghana during commerce was 5
Let me tell you this. As far as the Odo drainage and desilting is concerned, I have covered at least two short cuttings on it.
Yes.
And from 2000, 1999, I started practicing. And within the period, I covered at least 2 main ones. Before recently, we had all the issues about Conti and all. That'll be 3 main ones. We sought loans from Parliament, etc.
Can you imagine?
How do we make sure the political will works?
Can you imagine Mugabe of all people saying that he doesn't want Harare to be like Accra?
Yeah, Harare is neat. I haven't been.
Yeah, it is. I've been to Harare.
Almost every building in Ghana, almost every building, you have a container in front of the property.
Yes, exactly.
East Legon.
Yes. Yeah. Kiosk container.
But the question is now becoming markets. Nobody's
in charge.
Just in front of the mall. It's a market.
No, let me also say something. You know, we also have to take into consideration the fact that we've had incredible migration from the rural areas to the urban areas. And now the thing is that, you know, the supervision of a rural area as against an urban area is different. Because in a rural area, it's a small, let's say you live in a village and there are 60 people, you know each other. So the form of civic interaction is different. Here, you have 4 million people who don't know each other, who may not know each other, who may not care what you do and all that kind of thing. So you need a rigid supervision system, civic system, that if you break the law, you're punished. So that nobody can come to you and, oh, this guy, you know, this is what has happened. In a village, you can call the chief will call you and give you advice.
And now we're not in that
No, we're not in that setting. No.
Dispensation.
So that dispensation.
I remember Edry Blankson started taking the hawkers off the streets.
Yes.
Well, the media, as usual, will go there, go and take the sympathetic stories, the emotional, and people will cry. The government will look bad. The government saw it at the castle and said, Edry Blankson, stop.
Yeah.
The mayor currently tried it.
Yes.
Now he's stopped as well. And so Obiamo's point comes in about the political will.
Yeah, but I've always said, I gave a statement. I supported a statement before we went for the inspection of the floods, and I did categorically say that we've got impunity, lack of political will, lack of continuity. You understand? And there is a.
You are talking as an individual because you don't care.
Why don't I care?
But those who care about the political continuity of their parties, they care about your statement and the impact it will have on public opinion about the party.
Of course it does.
And that affects leadership.
No. And don't remove me from my political will. The thing is that, you see, in order to change...
Because your political party is really in power.
Yes, it's in power. And therefore...
Which political party may be the next to come to power?
Yes, but if my political party is in power, what I have to do as best as I can is to try and change it from within. You understand? By agitating from within, using the channels to do that. And I do that. I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, I'm removed from it, and NDC, this, no. What it is that there is something basically wrong with the body politic in this country. And I've been saying it from when I came into active politics. You understand? we're looking at, let me not digress a bit. What is the criteria for somebody to be regarded as a good member of a political party in this country?
Now, if you praise Singh,
you're even going too far. What is the criteria for appointing people to run our institutions?
If you praise Singh,
what is the criteria? Yes,
I can tell you that based on my experience,
not only praise singing, but the thing is that if you are inclined to thuggery, if you are inclined to vociferousness and all that kind of thing, and say, oh, the guy is a strong party guy. That is not what it's all about. It's about your contribution and turning it into an institution. And that also follows into making sure that you're working for your country and you're killing yourself for your country and you're rewarded for it.
Well, you're saying this publicly, but I think you're isolated in all this. That's why. That's my opinion.
No, I'm not isolated.
But, anyway, but we need a change. We need a change. We need a change in thinking, in leadership, and somebody needs to sacrifice power and say, I don't care, and this is what I want to do. Well, I think it won't happen.
Look, sometimes, if you're not careful, you make people have nostalgic feeling for dictatorship.
Like in Krumah,
like in Krumah. Run into.
Well,
in Cuba.
In Cuba. If the CPPs are listening.
In Cuba. I mean, if you go to Cuba, Havana is like paradise.
Even though you don't see a lot of the latest.
Do you know one of the reasons? You need to even tell the authorities your reason for coming to the capital. Who you're coming to see, for how long you're coming to stay there, and your business there.
But they don't want influx.
Otherwise everybody comes and sets up a kiosk, a container. It doesn't have anywhere to stay. So much chaos. That is the extreme part of it. But if we say we're doing democracy, freedom, and all those things, and these are the
too. Not only your rights, but your responsibilities.
These are the consequences.
Yes.
Many people lose faith and even trust in this whole system.
Okay.
So that people will say that, oh, then
in addition to what you're saying,
people then say military man will do better.
If I do an analysis and in summation of all has been the reaction to what leadership should have done, is a blame game. That's in what I have done. I see a system where we're blaming. Is that the way to go? No. And if that's not the way to go, or if it is, how should we be doing it?
Listen. Personally, I believe that we've got to... I want to say something.
I see you're passionate this morning.
No. That's his politics. I know him. No. He's very passionate about it. Anyway.
You see, one
last in a political party.
One, you've got the bigger picture that you've got to look at. We've got to look at our master plan and adhere to it, and make everybody aware that there is a master plan for living in a particular area. Not only Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, Wa, all those places. That's one. Secondly, we also have to make sure that if we are in the position to build the capacity of those who are members of our organization, like the TUC, and not only capacity, public safety, health and safety at work should be at the forefront of everything. There are some societies or countries in this world where health and safety is the top priority. The safety of their citizens is the top priority. And and when you do that, and people are aware of their responsibility and their civic rights and what they've got to do, all right, there's an improvement. People just don't care. People just don't care. And when somebody comes in from the outside, comes to Accra, and he doesn't have a house, he can get a kiosk to sleep in. If he doesn't have sanitary facilities, he can go free range. With impunity. You understand? He can bath. I've seen grown-up men thinking that they're mad, but they have nowhere to bath, and they're bathing by the side of the street.
Which is illegal.
It's illegal. But who's there?
Yeah.
You understand? And then we have, in my area, for example, we have the sanitation, the school for sanitary workers and things like that.
Is it School of Hygiene?
School of Hygiene. I try to get them to go out instead of having, when they have their annual year, whatever, what they call a week. I told them that it's better, instead of going on a float and going round, it's best for them to go and do a public awareness campaign and teach people, because they impart that knowledge. That, you see, that is what we don't do.
But we've been training them for the last year. We haven't absorbed them.
Yes. Now look at when we were Bolga Technical and they said electrical problem. A technical school, they have electrical problems.
And they're calling
yes. You see, we are not using our resources. We are not harnessing our resources, especially our human resource base. We are not harnessing it at all. We actually we've wasted our human resource base I don't know what it's terrible that people who are capable, all right, or have got the potential to be capable, instead of putting them along the path where they are contributing and doing things, we just leave it.
Yes, yes.
And I'm talking about the blame game issue.
No,
We need to hold people responsible.
Yes,
Yes.
If you don't hold people responsible, how would you move forward?
Move forward.
Now, even with this situation,
But people are saying you shouldn't
apart
hold
from-
anybody responsible.
no, it's impossible.
That is
All right.
wrong.
It's impossible. Apart from the fact that we are even thinking of how do we elect our mayors? We are thinking of do we appoint or elect? That's a major issue. If I had my own way, I would rather even go for a contract. A neutral body advertising and saying that we want somebody to run the city. These are the terms and conditions.
I think that makes
Neutral body, yes.
That makes
Then
sense.
to elect or even to appoint, because if you elect, you say, oh, this is an
it will
MPP
still be an
member.
inclination,
But
yeah,
yes,
somehow.
yeah, I mean-
Yeah. I get your point. We get the
management.
responsibility and city management
Yes.
and dialogue, for
Yes.
example.
Communication.
If you want to, let's say, break down houses, you need a buy-in of the resident, because you need to convince them that what the eventual outcome of whatever you want to implement will be very much beneficial to the overall and not to only the
Or you are not
political
even
interest.
being discriminatory.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you see, let me.
You were in before. I think you're taking all the time from over.
All right, okay. I'll
Today I see that you're passionate about
I'll
it.
concede to Obi.
Yeah, please do.
So, as we say, it's all about city management. But the challenge is where you...
Do we
where
have a
the-
leadership issue? Because it's all about you managing people's sentiments
I mean,
and
whoever thinks that he's not at risk probably doesn't know his environment well. I mean, where I live, every morning I wake up, if I'm driving to town, the structures I see along the way,
It's frightening.
It's frightening.
yeah.
I mean, settlements that you can
I'm going to my
imagine.
corporate office. I see places 10 years ago I wouldn't see kiosks, East Legon, etc.
Containers, kiosks. Well, I mean,
said this
citing properties on
Can't we have
drainage.
exclusive areas?
The challenge is that why do we wait for it to spring up and then we say that we're bringing it down?
Yeah.
I mean, you should invest so much in a system where you see a kiosk here, the next day the kiosk is gone. Nobody will invest in that thing again. If you started it in the wrong place, I've come to carry it away.
Don't let it wait for a week.
Don't let it go forever. Don't let it become a permanent structure, and then you have to invest more in bringing it down. And in bringing it down the human factor. Where are they going to sleep? It all becomes an issue. Indeed, this is my pot belly. It will be a miracle if it goes down tomorrow. I have allowed it to grow big. It will have to take some time before it becomes flat. If you allow the city to be in this state, overnight you cannot change it. So you have to develop a strategy as to how to address it. Than to think that
Do you think the strategy has been developed?
wrong.
We don't even have it.
No, there was a strategy. What happened was that at a certain time, this is not the first time that we've actually gone for funds for the drainage of Accra. The biggest one was the Kuwait Development Fund, I think, the middle of and that was based to do something about the Kole Lagoon. Then Sodom Agura rose up. All right. Now, it shouldn't be there. So how do you relocate? How do you
actions.
How do you relocate the people? Most of the traditional chiefs in Accra refuse to have people from have resettlement
For the people of there.
Yeah, because they believe that there are a lot of miscreants there, and then
They don't want them.
yeah, and then we have the NIMBY factor,
What?
not in my backyard factor, where people say no, we don't want these people near us. So you have a problem there. Then there's another angle, that people who live in bad housing, but legal bad housing, all right, say, why should you build houses for people who are living illegally? And we want housing for ourselves, good housing for ourselves, because we haven't done any social housing, major social housing in this country. What they say is affordable housing is for workers. Social housing is for people who are underprivileged and cannot have access to proper housing. That's what is done.
That's poor
everywhere.
people.
Poor people. People who have, you give them a basic place, but shelter, and they then know
The state will have to.
they know how to live in a society. A person who comes to Accra and lives in a kiosk, who doesn't have any sanitary facilities, doesn't have any access to water or to the basics, if you put him in a place, do you think he will look after it well? He has no precedent for looking after. Yeah. So, you know, these are the things that we've really got to look at. We've got to resettle the people from Sodom and Gomorrah. Where are we going to resettle? And they are Ghanaians, so they have every right to live in the city. So you can't say that you are driving them back to wherever they came from.
So what do we do?
That is what we've got to sit down and we have to engage them. Eventually we have to resettle them, but we have to engage them properly. It shouldn't be at a distance, as if you are dealing with somebody who's got...
What you're saying is going to take us a whole election period, a whole 4 years.
So therefore,
I'm saying
every day that you think of the solution. This
problem
is compounding. Because everybody comes to settle there.
Well, there seem to be a lot more, because yesterday President Kufuor launched a disaster support fund and urged professionals to influence government policy. Well, I didn't know what he meant by that, because, well, government policy is government policy. If it has to be enforced, it has to be enforced. And it takes the input of professionals.
Yes, there should be input.
So why is it that we don't have the policies being enforced adequately?
The policies are there. You see, I think what President Kufuor is saying is that most of our professional organizations always have a stand-off attitude.
It's what Obi is saying.
Yes,
they are afraid to be.
But they have to. No, but if you belong to the Architects Association or the Road Construction Association, you've got to be able to come up with something.
We've had the GMA said to be MPP, for example. I'm not afraid to say that, just because they continuously protest.
Right.
We've had Potak. Potak said.
I take example of my father-in-law, Alex Siedu. I mean, he's gone through sports to the highest level. Sometimes we sit down and talk. I say, why don't you speak? He say, hey, you want me to talk so the young ones will start bastardizing me. That's the culture we've created. Even when people want to speak their minds, we want to know where they're coming from and how to malign them so that they keep quiet.
Or if you're speaking and it doesn't align to the status quo.
The neutral people are neutral, competent people.
It is very
keeping quiet.
It is very
I see you're very much pain, also because of your history, where you're coming from, and but we need to do something about. Let's spend a minute each. What do we need to do now? Now we need to resettle the people now, as far as we're concerned, give them disaster relief, which is even not coming.
I even read your report for 4 days that President promised that we're going to take care of them.
Nothing has come up.
It's but for the benevolence of institutions like you, where we are mobilizing people to come and donate.
There's no national program for which the individuals can even
addressing this disaster. We are not managing it.
Well, let me say that, I mean, that has not been the case in my area.
You have help.
NADMO has moved in. They've started registering and making
sure.
You're
an MP, you have connections, so you can easily...
No, basically, no. I'm just saying that that's not what it is all about. The thing is that, yes, if you're an MP and you've got the connections, you try and make sure that at least it's done. And I did not only do it for my constituency. I've done it for several constituencies in Accra, because that's what I went on. Yesterday I went to NADMO and asked them and said, please, because we're all interconnected. I can't say...
NADMO?
Yes, I did go.
There's the accusation that they don't have the stock.
Yes, there's a problem with the stock.
They don't have the stock.
They don't have them.
So that's fact.
No, but we're trying to change the NADMO law.
Are we importing some things?
Yeah, certain things are coming in, and we're going to buffer stock and all that to get the necessary.
We're waiting for the donor community.
Yeah, it always happens. But let me say something. NADMO, with the changing the NADMO, we have to also look at an emergency fund, the National Emergency Fund, that certain payments, statutory payments are paid into, and that we have to deal with insurance.
We are supposed to have set a contingency fund.
Yes, but that's what
we're part of it.
But now we want a specialist emergency fund.